What was it?
Youth competition after that as well.
Yeah.
So I've taken that from there to item 7 or 6.
Going in the same direction. Yes. That's the answer.
Work. I want no phone messages during this.
Are you on Do Not Disturb? Wait.
Please take your seats, get comfy. Thank you.
Can I check, please, that everyone has signed the appropriate form for this meeting so that you're allowed to vote? If you haven't, then their forms are outside the room, I believe. Don't worry, it only costs you £10.
Is the other thing on, do we know? Because I can't see the screen from where I'm sitting. Shouldn't I go to that one?
Or you can move down here, yeah, because then you can click on it, yeah. This lead won't reach any further, I don't think, so we'll have to, actually, I wonder. I'm going to lose it. No, I won't try that. Okay. All right, Kate. We'll open the meeting then. So, Ring World AGM 2024. As you can see from the slide up there, if you know these things, then that is Exeter in the middle of there. So, very, very big thank you to Devon and Exeter for hosting this event. Thank you. Right, so we'll move straight on. The agenda is all the same things that were on the agenda that was sent out. Sorry, question. Yeah, okay, you're right. Okay, so we'll do that now. So I'm Paul Jopp, Chairman of the Ring of World.
I'm Mary Bowen, the Company Secretary. Elva Ainsworth, Board Member.
Will Bosworth, Editor.
Hi.
Okay. Yeah, so the agenda is the same items, but there's just a slightly different order. I've just moved the Young Ringers competition towards the end of the agenda rather than halfway through. Okay, so the first item then is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting in 2023. Apologies, okay, sorry. I've been told, do we have any apologies for this meeting? No? Okay, there are none.
Right. Okay, so apologies have been received from Tim Jackson, Dove Stewart, Ian Oram, Fred Dukes Van Stewart, Enid Roberts of Anzab, Rona McCune, Barrow and District, Rosina Baxter, Beverley and District, Jaden Milby and Duncan Walker, both of the Carlisle Guild, Glenn Fibby, Derby DA, Ed Sterlin from East Derby and West Notts Association, Phil Bailey and Sue Marsden from Ely, Chris Povey from Four Shires Guild, John Cooperthwaite from Guildford, John Allison, Hertford County, Alexander Runting and Steph Runting. I thought I'd just seen Stephanie.
It's the other step.
Oh, right, okay, thank you. From Kent. David Westerman, Peterborough Guild, Bob Crichton from Salisbury, Chris Hughes, St David's, Cass Coleman, Suffolk, Rob Lane, Sussex County, Toby Hibbert, the University of London Society, and Michele Giovanni Gampareri from the Veronese. Are there any others? And the directors, Bob Crichton we've already mentioned, Gareth Davies and Graham Lay and Graham Bradshaw, and I'm able to be here this afternoon, so that's why you've got two directors.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Right, so to approve the minutes of the AGM held last year, 2nd of September 2023, they've all been circulated. So do we have approval on that? I guess we show of hands.
Yep,
Show of hands, please, for approval. Okay. Good. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. What do you want me to sign?
You just sign it.
Oh,
Somewhere.
I see. Okay. Sorry, I'm not very good at these things. Okay, the next thing is to receive the company's accounts for the year ending 31st December 2023, along with the reports of the directors and the independent examiner. So again, they've been circulated. So are there any things to say about that before we get approval? I believe, Alva, you had something. Is there an error on the balance sheet?
A small error on page 9 of the balance sheet. Yeah, we've noted that.
Okay. So,
There's a small error in page 9 of the balance sheet. Which is, I haven't got the figure here in front of me.
It's a subtotal in the wrong place.
The subtotal in the wrong place, 244 something.
okay. So that's been corrected. Yep. So do we have approval on the accounts? Hands, please. Okay. Thank you.
That's okay.
Okay. Right. Right, to receive the chairman's report. Okay. So I think we've got something on this. Okay, so company accounts, I'll just go back through those. So we've summarised them. So in 2023 then, actually it's got the wrong title on that side, I should say 2023 against 2022. So there was a surplus of 34,000, just over 34,000. The income in revenue was up by £27,701, and you can see those things below, you know, how that's happened. It's primarily around donations and sale of merchandise. Expenditure, unfortunately, £30,461 more than the previous year. That was mostly down to salaries and typesetting expenses. And the reason for that is that we did give quite a healthy pay rise to the staff who, because obviously that was a year of cost of living rise and all the rest of it, so we want to make sure that the staff were well looked after. So that put our costs up quite a bit there. And also we, in the previous year, we'd had the benefit of about 3 months when we were without a deputy assistant editor. And so that saved us a little bit of money during that year. which I'm sure you all know Will covered for that period, which was very good. So that's the primary reason for the increase in expenditure. Plus merchandise costs were actually up quite a lot, and I believe, Will, you probably correct me here, but I think that's because we wrote off some stock that we hadn't been selling. Okay, well that's what it says in the account, so. Okay. So our current assets are £275,966. Our liabilities and creditors is £135,831, and our reserves at the end of 2023 stand around £300,000, which, if we had no more income, would keep us going for another 11 months. So it's quite a healthy position to be in if we should need that. So just moving on then to the position now compared with 2023. Obviously, this doesn't appear in the accounts, but so in 2023, we did increase subscription rates, and we did raise salaries by 6%. So the surplus at the moment is £15,000 this year, compared with, in the first half of this year, compared with £23,000 in the first 6 months last year. So actually there's not as much surplus now as there was in the previous year. And a lot of that is down to, I guess none of us knew, but interest rates have remained quite high for quite a while. So on our reserves, we've actually received quite a lot of interest, which we didn't expect to get. Now, the expected surplus at the end of the year is £10,000. So you'll notice that drops. And the reason for that drop in over the next 6 months is we have a lot more expenses in the second half of the year, and also some of the subscriptions don't come in through the last half of the year as well. So at the end of the year, we'll probably be around £10,000 surplus, which is still healthy, but probably not as good as, well, definitely not as good as 2023, which was a very good year. Okay, so moving on the message then for the coming year. So we've done quite a lot to absorb costs over the last couple of years, and this was because of the cost of living problems and things like that, and we didn't want to charge people more than they could probably afford. But we cannot carry on with that. I mean, we have reached a point where we can't absorb those costs any longer. We're not expecting any events in 2024. I don't think the King's going to die or anything like that. Not as far as I know, anyway. So there's unlikely to be anything that will bring in additional revenue, which those things do. So we're probably going to have to look at our budget meeting in November. We're probably going to have to look at a reasonable increase in the subscription rate. Now, yeah, so question.
Will the happening in first class postage rates next month affect you?
No, we don't post first class. No, we're second class. And our rates are fixed for the year anyway, so they go up on January the 1st. And they will increase by 10%. No, sorry, 11%. So we already know that. They've published their rate cards already. So yes, as I say, unfortunately, we will have to put the cover price up. Now, I think the usual concern about this is if you put the cover price up by too much, then you get more churn. I think we've reached a point now where actually we're not seeing churn because of cover price. I think we've got through that problem. So I think people that take the Ringing World now are generally happy to pay whatever it costs to produce it. So we're not expecting there to be a big drop-off just because we put subscription rates up. But you never know, of course, with bell ringers. Okay. So any questions around that? Paul?
Are you considering any other cost-saving measures, for example, like moving towards a fortnight publication or anything like that?
We've looked at things like that in the past. They don't actually save any money because our fixed costs, which are basically salaries, stay the same whether you do it fortnightly, monthly, or whatever. So it makes very little difference. So no, other than the things we've already done, because we have done quite a lot in terms of efficiencies over the last few years. So I'm not sure there's anything more we can really do. I mean, the one that often comes up is, do we need to retain an office in Andover? I think the answer from the board at the moment is yes, we do want to retain that. We see benefits in having that office, in particular because a lot of our admin staff work out of Andover, and we don't want to lose them. So yeah, I don't think there's nothing more we can look at the moment. Any other questions on that? Hello?
So in terms of your increasing reliance on donations to fund the Ring the World, what sorts of information do you have about the sources of those donations? You know, is it in terms of what people are donating for and what sort of demographics are donating as well?
Yeah, we do. We do have that information. I'm sure we all know that it's primarily quarter peal ringers. What their age and things like that is, I don't know, but it is generally quarter peal ringers. Peal ringers, for some reason, don't believe that they should donate. It's not true across the board, because some do, but you know, in general they don't. They probably feel they already pay enough in other ways. I wish I could. If you've ever dealt with Royal Mail, no. We're lucky we get it delivered at all.
I would say we've seen a consistent improvement across the board since we moved to envelopes from compostable wrappers in delivery times. It seems that Royal Mail like envelopes more than wrappers. So I'm surprised to hear that. Sorry.
Is the substantial increase likely to be a double-digit percentage?
I don't know. We've not worked that through really. It's just, I suppose what we're trying to do is just make you aware that we've got to look at this now. We can't continue to absorb the cost increases we've been getting.
Have you considered putting Bellboard behind the subscription? Because you're going to continue to hemorrhage subscribers, because I, for one, get all my information from Bellboard. I don't subscribe to that.
It's a thorny subject, unfortunately. It is something that's discussed a lot at the board and in various other places. If we are going to put the subscription charge or something on Bellboard, then it needs to be done very sensitively. There's no doubt about that, because we could just break the whole thing, which we obviously don't want to do. You know, Bellboard's a fantastic service and a lot of people use it. And like yourself, I'm like you. That's probably all I read really is Bellboard, because it's current, it's got all the information I'm really interested in about whether Stuart should ring appeal or not, you know, those sort of things. So, yeah.
The younger people who prefer that format, you're going to continually hemorrhage.
I know. Yeah, and we've got to move digital, but there's no doubt about that. Yeah. Sorry. You in a minute, Fred here.
Fred Bowen, Essex Association. I think some of the members present may be unaware that the technology that was used to set up Bellboard in the first place, that still is relevant to the core of Bellboard, was given to the ringing world on condition that it remained free forever.
Yeah, correct. Sorry.
As a student, any sort of increase in price would inevitably make things less accessible for young people. Like disposable income isn't really a thing for my age group at the moment, and so I think that's something that you'd be aware of, like in line with like Ring 2030 in order to encourage more young people, that you don't discourage them by increasing the cost.
Yeah, thank you. David?
David Smith, ANZAB. Given how successful Bellboard is in terms of court appeal donations, is it worth making more efforts to ask people who just use Bellboard as a source of information to make donations from time to time in appreciation?
That's not a bad idea, and I remember with was it ringingroom.com, they used, was it Patron or something? There was some system they used so you could give just, I guess, almost random donations to support what was being done. So thank you. Yeah, it's a good idea.
We do have the ability to set up recurring donations already on Bellboard, by the way. If you're setting up a recurring donation, you can light it in your
Hi, you talked about churn. Hello, you talked about churn. Have you got data on the longer-term trend in the number of subscribers, so for longer-term planning?
It's generally downwards, but I think it's reached the point in general where people are dying rather than any other reason that they're dropping off. And unfortunately, with our demographic, then this happens a lot. So it's that general trend that's going. So the printed publication, that tends to be the reason that people stop subscribing. Unfortunately, there's no one coming in at the bottom end to take their place. So it's just a general trend. It's probably about 80 or 90 people a year, something like that.
Current subscriber number is 2,150. And we know it's in the higher age group, over 50.
Is that postal subscribers or including the online only?
Including online, which is, so it's a 4-to-1 ratio, paper to digital.
Yeah, I think I've got it in my report somewhere, but it's got the numbers for 2023 as well. So if you remember the number Elvis told you, then you can subtract that from 2023 when I put it up.
So Martin Bristow, Liverpool University Society. What kind of efforts have we made to try and drive increasing subscriptions from newer ringers? Because if I go to a tower in my association area, I don't see any advertising of anything at all. Is there anything we can do to help promote the ringing world, a poster that we can put up to try and drive there? A lot of people know about Bellboard in passing, but they don't really know about the ringing world. I try and share interesting snippets of things with people if it comes up, but it's very hard to try and get new ringers interested.
Can I pop in there? Yes, come to the stall. We've got packs of flyers you can take away. Small packs of A5 flyers. We can, if you like larger versions, we can do them as well. Something we're finding very effective is actually making more attempts to proactively contact people at milestones, particularly first quarter and first peel. When they're printed, we contact them, make sure we give them a complimentary issue. Another way that we find really profitable to engage people is actually to encourage them to submit something for publication. People really still enjoy seeing something that they've crafted their story published in the ringing world. And we're actually always grateful for really small stuff as well. It can just be a nice photo and a paragraph of text. It doesn't have to be much more than that. And to be honest, you can just write notes in an email and we can turn it into the paragraph of text in-house. But we find that often forges that then go on because once people understand that their stories are actually valued by us and by the general ringing population, they're then more likely to come back to us and stay in touch with us, and they sometimes even become subscribers. So yeah, that kind of effort is really welcome.
The other thing to note is that the youth contest itself is a big publicity for the ringing world. There's a lot that the ringing world shows and exhibits, and people can take things away. But a point to raise is that youngsters they don't buy magazines. You know, they don't buy physical magazines. That's not what they normally do. So, you know, that's the main problem we're facing, the challenge.
John?
Just to follow up on Martin's point, have you considered relaunching the Ambassadors Programme, which you ran a number of years ago?
The answer is yes, because this came up last year at Ipswich, but we haven't actually done anything. But I think it's a great idea, because I think the people in this room, for example, should be great ambassadors for the ringing world. You know, because we all love it. We all think it's a great magazine for bell ringers. So yes, I think that's something that we could definitely do. But we just need to make the effort and get out to those people to give them the material that Will was suggesting and so on, so they can do that. But thank you, John. I think there's a microphone coming around somewhere.
Thank you. Ian Self, Truro Guild. There's obviously quite a differential between the donations from peels and quarter peels. Is there any kind of campaign or even a little pressure that could be brought to bear on peel ringers perhaps to be made to see the advantages of donating to the ringing world? Because obviously we want to secure the long-term future of the publication.
So yeah, that's interesting. So I'm a very active peel ringer myself, and so is Graham Bradshaw, who's our finance guy on the board. And we both try and promote this thing to peel ringers that we ring with. The feedback we get almost consistently is, no, we're not going to do it. We don't believe we should. So it's a very difficult sell. And I don't really know why, but they seem to be very anti giving out any more money, because they say we put an awful lot into ringing. You know, we give peel fees to towers, so the money's going to the places where it's needed. We're probably subscribers to the magazine as well, so we're paying a subscription. So why should we give any more money? It's a really difficult sell, and it's unfortunate, but that just seems to be the way it is. Sorry.
Tristan Lockhart, Leeds University Union. There we go. Tristan Lockhart, Leeds University Union. So what I'm getting from the figures you've been putting forward is that the ringing world is still in decline finance-wise and is increasingly reliant on donations, which are more fickle than subscriptions. What are the contingency plans for the services you provide if the financial situation continues to get worse? So, for example, bell board. I mean, what happens if the ringing world goes down? What happens to all the data on there?
So Bellboard is very well backed up, so we would never lose that data. I think Richard Smith's probably in somewhere. Yeah, so Richard, I understand that everything is very secure in terms of Bellboard data. Yeah.
I think that certainly in terms of backups, there are robust backups kept in multiple locations, stored for months and months. So even if those are lost, it's not immediately noticed. It can be recovered, and there are copies of the data that no one individual can access. So I can access most of the backups, but not all of them. There are copies that other people can access. And those people can't access all of the copies I have. So there are lots of robust processes in place. It doesn't necessarily deal with the question, though, that I think Tristan was getting at as to what the sort of the long-term future would be if the ringing world shut down. How you would safeguard the ongoing life of Bellboard, but that one assumes would be something you would have plenty of time to consider. The ringing world's not going to disappear overnight.
Yeah, I think the other thing, Richard, is that I know you and I think some other people did a a big security review of Bellboard as well, to make sure that the data couldn't be hacked or modified or whatever by rogue actors or wherever they may be. Although I don't think the Russians are interested in Bellboard, so we're probably safe.
Could I take this opportunity to pay tribute to Richard's continuing work on Bellboard, please? He's an extremely diligent volunteer, and I hope that as time goes on, people realise when they access other websites and you find that any other website can be down at any moment for hours at a time, and particularly ones that are run by volunteers or charities on a shoestring, we actually get an extraordinary service from Bellboard. And particularly since we're talking about 2023, we worked really quite hard in advance of the coronation, anticipating that there was going to be a huge surge in online activity. And I believe we coped with that. I know it was slow for those few days, but I hope you can understand why. So yeah, many thanks to Richard for all his time and skills that he gives for that.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, so there's more on this later anyway on the slide, so we can come back to some of these topics later if we wish. Right, so I wanted to go through the personnel then. Anything we've got to sign off at this point? No. No, okay. So I guess people know this anyway, but there were no employee changes during 2023. Which is good because obviously it means we've got a very stable environment in Andover and beyond, even as far as Dublin, which is where Will lives. So yeah, Will's still the editor. Tricia Shannon is the assistant editor. We've got can't read from here. Sarah Carrick is a compositor. Jolie, our marketing and admin person. And Christine Hooker runs the accounts. So those are our paid staff, and they've remained consistent throughout the period. Will's already thanked Richard Smith, but we do have other volunteers as well that provide things as well, which there's Bill Hibbert, who does quite a lot around software. Doug Davis does court appeal proofreading. Phil Moyes and Nigel Herriot also do things around Bellboard. David Hull, he organised the Young Ringers competition up until 2023. That's now been taken on by Joanne. Is it Joanne or Joanna? Joanna Creswell. Yeah, sorry, but the spelling mistake there. I think there's two S's in that, isn't there? Or should be. But more on that later, only because we're talking about the competition later. Right. So these are the things. This is the stuff that was worked on in terms of publications in 2023. The Voice of the Church. I don't know whether people have seen that, but it's actually a very good book. It's not very long. I gave a copy to my vicar, and I'm not sure she's read it, but it's really good. It really explains the relationship between bell ringing and the church. So it's a very useful book to give out. It won't teach any of you about bell ringing, but it will teach the church about what we do and what our relationship is. So it's a really, really good book. We put the first 100 years of the ringing world onto USB, and that's now available. We took over the Sharp County bell books from the Sharp Trust, and I'm not sure, Will, which counties are there in that? It's quite a few, I believe.
It's just some remaining stock of Herefordshire, and then there's a few Channel Islands books that have made their way to us now as well, and we should have a history of Cambridge to go with our upcoming new publication of Cambridge as well. So yes, it's a small remainder line, but people seem to appreciate it.
And something we're particularly proud of is we took over the Vickers ringing record books. I don't know if people have seen those, but they're really nice things. They go back years and years and years. Into, you know, they were, I can't remember when Vigor started doing them, but pretty much everybody, when they learnt to ring, certainly in my day, they got a ringing record book and they wrote their peals into it, so and quarter peals and things like that, and towers they visited, and they're really nice books. So we were really pleased to take those over. We've got it's called a hot foil or something stamping machine, so we can do all the gold foil printed things on those, and also the diaries. So yeah, that's really good, and I assume, Will, that they're outside as well on the stand. So please take a look at those. They're really nice books. We've mentioned Bellwood already, but there have been a number of improvements to within Bellboard, mostly internal things. So they were to enable us to handle the huge volumes that we got through the major events in 2023. We implemented a thing called OS Ticket to handle incoming emails, and we did those performance sheets that you could print off. Which I see in a lot of towers now, people printed off their coronation ringing or things like that. So, right, and so the other things that we talked about last year, which was we were going to start looking at potential looking at a monthly publication. We did start work on that. In fact, we've had 2 or 3 sessions, one of which was in Andover, face-to-face, and then we've had other sort of calls, Teams calls about it. It's actually a really difficult problem because we didn't want to stop the weekly magazine because a lot of people like that. So we wanted to produce the monthly alongside it. But when you look at the amount of work involved in doing that, and if you're using the current staff, it just becomes an almost insurmountable problem. What we don't want to do is to break the business, because we could say, oh, we'll just switch over to monthly and forget the weekly. But we'd probably lose a lot of our loyal base if we did that. So it would break what we've got, and suddenly we go into debt. So that's not a clever thing to do. So we are continuing to look at it, but it's, as I say, it's not an easy nut to crack, that one. The other thing that we've been looking at is subscription management and customer relation management. So this is basically to make our subscription process more streamlined, managing direct debits and things like that. So we've done a bit of a market survey. We've come up with 2 or 3 products that could potentially meet our needs. And this year we're actually looking at how we could, if possible, implement those things. And I don't know whether you mind mentioning it, Elva, but your father has given a very healthy donation to the ringing world to enable us to move the sort of digital side of the ringing world forward. So we're very grateful to Alan for that. And hopefully we can see fruits of that this year. So this is a bit about things like donations and stuff like that. So there's been a lot of turmoil over the previous 3 years with COVID and the lockdowns and all the rest of it. But what we saw in 2023, that things stabilised. So it's fairly consistent level of donations now, and they're running at around about £5,000 now a month we get in donations, and that's, as I say, staying pretty stable. And you'll see the blue line there, which is 2023. You can see that after the coronation, which was obviously a peak event, again the donations were stable. So that's really helped us a lot, because now we understand how our revenue streams are, so we can much better plan around it now than we could in previous years, because we were never quite sure whether things would come back again, but they have, and so they are. So this thing about subscribers, so that was the numbers in 2023. So 17, so what's that, 2,199, isn't it? In total, and I don't know what that compared with. What was your number, Olva?
2150.
Okay, well there you go then. So
Yeah, near enough.
right, so we've lost 49 subscribers. So I don't know who asked the question, but that's about the run rate of probably about 40, 50 people a year, something like that. Okay. This is just to show the things in terms of peels. So again, you'll see that peels are stabilised now. They're running at about, I don't know, about 300 a month, something like that. Quarter peels, around about 1,500 a month, something like that. Again, it's shown stability. You know, ringing has stabilised again since COVID. All these figures are available on Bellboard, by the way, if you want to download them to a spreadsheet and do your own analysis. Okay. Okay, that's donations again. Sorry, I don't need that. Right. So I think can we move on to the next thing then? So appoint directors. Now, I was talking to Mary last night about whether we actually needed to do this with a paper ballot, because it's quite time consuming and whatever. And what was suggested was if we put it to the meeting that we could do it by a show of hands, and that was approved by the meeting, then we'll just do it by a show of hands. The two directors are both current directors, and they're willing to re-stand. So one's me, and there's Graham Lay. So I don't think there's anything contentious in there. So are we okay with doing it by a show of hands for the election? I think that's that's a majority. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to that then. So we'll take them separately. Yeah. So the first one then is me. I think everyone's been sent this information about me. Nick Elks, who I assume is in the room somewhere, kindly proposed me. Thank you, Nick. I shall be forever grateful for that. So can we have a show of hands then? Do you approve me as a director? Thank you. Don't need to do against, do I? Yes. I'll go on against then. Against? Dare you. Thank you. Okay, so the next one is Graham Lay. Graham unfortunately couldn't be here today. He's been a really active director. I mean, I think I've enjoyed working with Graham, so I'd quite like to see him back on the board. So certainly that's my recommendation. He's been proposed by Tony Crowther, who I assume is from Hertfordshire, is he? Yeah, thank you. So can we have a show of hands then for Graham Lay? Those in favour? Okay. Any against? I won't tell him. Thank you. So I think that's okay. Is that all right, Mary?
Yep, that's okay.
Thank you. Okay. This is just a standard item we go through every year, but we need your authority to appoint an independent examiner. So can we have a show of hands on that, please? Okay. Any against? No. Thank you. Right. Over to you, Olva.
Thank you. Thank you. So we were here in Exeter 2 years ago, and it was fantastic. But then York last year we thought that was big. We thought that was really big. It was 27 teams in York last year. But this year in London we had 37 teams. 37. That is a lot of people coming to London for a day and expecting and wanting lots of bells, a competition, food, drink, and all of it. But it was a wonderful, wonderful day. So thank you so much to the Ancient Society College Youths, who were the driving force behind being in the city. We had headquarters at Bow. That was a flagship 12-bell tower. They loved ringing. They love ringing at these towers. They just love it. There was a really good atmosphere, good energy. It was reasonable weather, thank goodness. It was okay. The city really lent itself for this event because there were a lot of towers within reasonable, easy reach. So we didn't have to put on buses, which has made the whole thing a little bit easier. But dealing with 37 teams is really, really a big, big challenge. Yes, in York, we struggled to find a place to host the award ceremony. We really struggled. In fact, we didn't find somewhere. We had to leave some of the parental supporters out, which went down very badly. So this year we were absolutely clear we wanted to be able to fit everyone in. So we managed to get agreement from St Paul's Cathedral, and we had the award ceremony in St Paul's Cathedral. We had a very special photograph of all the young ringers on the steps at St Paul's. So that took some logistical planning, didn't it, Will? It was huge. It was such a big job, but it filled the nice gap actually between the judging and so it worked really, really well. It was a very special day. Thank you to all the London ringers, not just the college youths. There were many supporters. There were probably getting towards 200 ringers who came in for the day to help. Lots of towers available. Thank you to them. What else to say? Jo Krezel, it was her first youth contest and she did a fantastic job, so I really want to give a big, big thank you to her. She didn't realise quite what she was taking on, or no one did. No one expected it to go up to 37 towns. It's a 30% increase. But she managed beautifully well. She couldn't be here today because she's about to have a baby. Imminent. It's imminent. So she's beautifully timed, just at the right time of the year between contests. We hope she'll be able to support us through the coming year. Plans for next year are afoot, and I'm very pleased to announce that we can now say we are going to Birmingham next year. We will have to do it slightly differently if we're expecting these sort of numbers. So each year we need to evolve this event. It's an extraordinary event. It's a victim of its own success in terms of numbers of people. We're talking about between 800 and 900 people we had to deal with in London and sit in that award ceremony. There aren't even that many places that can seat that many people. So it's a really, really big deal. Part of that is about the number of supporters that come with each team. More and more parents and hangers-on come to support the team's activity, and that is what the teams want, and it really helps the team work, but it also gives us another challenge of what to do with those people and what we need to provide. But we are up for the challenge. Will has been fantastic in running the contest. Again, every year we're improving things. The medals get better every year, it seems to me. So Jo and Will did a fantastic job of what is a huge, huge project that really takes up the space of the team for months really leading up to early July. It's quite a big deal. Anything else to say? Sponsorship, I should mention. Special mention for David Chalk, who was sort of newly got involved or freshly involved, and he wonderfully managed to secure a number of donations from livery companies that we hadn't had sponsorship from before, and we went for small donations from those livery companies. So we've expanded our sponsors, our number of sponsors, which allows us to go back to those people next year. So which is really great because there are significant costs in putting this event on. Anything else to say?
I think I'd say if you're a rep from an association that doesn't send a youth team, do please send a message back that it's a really transformative thing for ringing across the whole region. I'm sure that there are other reps you can talk to who can tell good stories of that. I'm looking up at Hayley, but it can really galvanise and gee up ringing across the region to actually collect a youth team together, even if they don't ring together many times before the contest, and send them along. So I would encourage you to start those conversations where possible if you're from an association that doesn't do much youth activity.
Yes. Linda.
Thank you. Oh, yes, it is. Yes. Linda Garton, Bedfordshire Association. Someone who's had a bit of involvement in the youth contest over the years. Just really to reiterate, a huge congratulations to everybody who was involved in the organisation of this year's contest. It was brilliant. I thought 20-odd teams, I think, was the most I had. I thought that was logistically a challenge, but 37? So amazing. A couple of questions really. I mean, obviously it's fantastic that it's growing at such a rate. And yes, any associations that haven't sent a team before, the effect that it has on ringing locally. But are there thoughts as to going forward how to manage those increasing numbers? I mean, I know when I was involved with only 20 teams, one of the suggestions I had that London, that the venues that you can use are becoming increasingly limited in terms of having the right, enough towers, having a venue for the results for that number of people. And in my head, London is an ideal venue and it's easy to get to from all over the country. I know it's a lot further for some people, but there are those transport links. Whether that's something that needs to be considered, whether it needs to be London every year, every other year, because that is the more. And I'm sure there are other societies in London who would be willing to.
Maybe. I'll hold you to that.
I'm just looking for the reps here, but and also. And this is a really difficult one. I know that certain areas, and it's fantastic that it can happen, have several teams who are able to enter, which is an amazing situation to be in, but whether that needs to be something that is considered so that those areas have, it's a contest to get into their team, and maybe the other ringers come down to take part in the day, but whether that then reduces or assists the logistics. Whether those are things that need to be considered. But thank you, everybody. It was just brilliant.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Yes, and we are actively looking at all of those options because we have to. We literally cannot do the Birmingham contest next year the same way as we've done London. We just can't. So we are working with Simon already and team, Eleanor, to look at how can we make this workable. We might need to go to regional contests. We might need to limit number of teams per area. We're looking at changing the bar as to standards required for entry. There's a number of things we're playing with. We're looking at the long term as well as what can we actually manage next year. So we are actively looking at that. It's not an easy answer. The key thing we know is the youngsters love doing lots of ringing. They love having a contest environment, and there's something supremely special about being amongst. I mean, if you can imagine 3 times this amount of people being in that site, it's like, oh, there are other young ringers. Right, I'm not alone. It's huge, and you might only be in that group for the 45 minutes of the award ceremony, but that's I know it stays with them because I work with some who are 22, 23 ringers. They work with me, and they talk about their contests. When they were 15, 16, they are proving to be motivational all the time in districts, and also deeply meaningful to individual ringers. So we don't want to lose the specialness. So there's a lot to think about, and I'm very happy that we're working with Birmingham to create next year.
Thank you. Is this no? Nick Elks, Peterborough Guild. Obviously, you just said it costs a lot of money. Are you able to say how much money and how much comes from sponsors, how much the Ring World puts in, and how sustainable it is in the future?
It varies every year. The costs vary every year depending on things like how many towns involved, what donations they require, and sometimes we don't even know what the answer to that is until the contest itself. It's one of those strange things. It also varies depending on whether we need to hire buses. It's a big cost. That's a big cost. But we're talking in the realm of somewhere between £8,000 and £12,000. If you talk about the direct costs, if we talk about the time that the team are putting in, it's double that. So it depends how you're looking at it, but we're managing to get sponsorship to cover our costs. That's what we're managing to do right now, and it's a job I have to do every year. And I can't say it's my favourite job, but it's very fulfilling when I manage to secure it. So, it's sort of working right now, the platform. Yes, you're ready. Go for it. You're on now.
The first is, these livery companies that you've been talking to, are they likely to sponsor an event that is not in London, because that's where they're based? And secondly, please, please, please don't raise the performance bar. That would, that would cut out so many people so quickly that I think it would just be counterproductive. Thank you.
Very good points. Yeah, we did use the opportunity, the fact that we were in the City of London, to go for the livery companies, I have to confess. But my experience of the livery companies is that once they see what's going on, they get to see what they're supporting, that they carry on supporting even if it's not London. So I'm hoping, but I can't guarantee, that they will continue. To go to raising the bar, point noted, one of our key things, and we were literally talking about it last night, to agree that we're still aligned on this, is inclusivity is absolutely what we're going for here. We want every young ringer to feel that they can be included in this day and to enjoy the day. But it could be we can just tweak some boundaries around, for instance, can you ring on a 12 safely? But we have health and safety concerns as well. We've got a number of things to balance out here. So there's a few tweaks to do, but I hope we don't go too far. Yeah, thank you for your feedback. Yes.
Can you confirm the actual date, please?
First Saturday in July, 5th.
First Saturday in July, yes, confirmed. This is fresh information.
Ralston, Norwich. I wanted to also say, please don't raise the bar. Last year, we put in our first team for possibly ever, I don't know, quite a long while certainly, and that team went in the round section. This year, that team went in the method section, and we had another round team. And I think that our team was probably the youngest team present. We certainly had a very young age group, so please be very careful before raising the bar.
Point noted.
I think just to clarify on raising the bar, if you imagine the big master spreadsheet, which has 37 columns, one for each team, there's a big, really hard diagonal line that goes through the middle of it for when they're at the contest tower at the moment. And that is a kind of immovable feast, right? If you want 20-minute slots at the same contest tower, because it's a
fair to make one team compete at one tower and one team compete at another tower in the same class, then that's quite a bottleneck, as it were, to expansion. So what we're looking at is ways to make that more flexible.
Yeah.
We're not actually looking to cut inclusivity so much, but perhaps cut into more classes, perhaps have more reserves, encourage more teams not to have everyone ringing a competition, but find other ways to test their young ringers and feel that like they're engaging in a different class of competition, perhaps those kind of things.
Yeah. Question there.
Neil Jones, Kent. You mentioned about regional heats, Elva, and that's something I would hope that you would really think about in the long-term future, because having been at several of these Ringing World competitions, as you're aware, I remember the atmosphere at Exeter Cathedral, absolutely buzzing there, and the same this year at St Paul's when we were in there, and within Bow, and at York last year. And part of that is having that number of young people together. And I think regional heats would take away some of that atmosphere that we are currently able to generate there. I do, however, appreciate the logistical nightmares. Having seen the timing sheet at York, I do realise, Will, it is a nightmare, but please try not to make it a regional competition.
The other factor with regional competitions, if you have a regional and a national, so you had two competitions a year, it's not really practical in terms of the children's educational process through the year, because immediately before July you've got the A-levels and GCSEs, so you're going to end up having to have a regional competition much earlier in the year, which could easily end up with having different teams, different members of the teams, because of developments and their personal lives. So it really wouldn't work from a practical point of view.
Having one day to the end of what's effectively the academic year really works, doesn't it? Because you take them through the journey through the whole year, and then yes, totally understand that. Agree.
Thank you. Dick and Love Stewart. I think some of this can also lead back to the comments we had in the work group leads about promoting ringing in schools. One thing that is clear is that a lot of these kids are representing their county in a sport. And for a lot of sports, that's a really big deal. If you play football and you represent your county for that's an excellent thing on your CV. Might be handy, and I don't know to what extent you do it, is to actually contact the schools of the kids to say, you do realise that little Jimmy here is representing their county, and they can have a fuss made of them. And if anybody else wants to do that, well, come along and learn to ring at your local tower.
way of hooking them into subscribing
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. In fact, I started talking to Andrea last night about this very thing, that I think if we can come up with something that appeals to all the, not just the people that come to the young ringers, but the next level up as well, the university groups and so on, because they have to be our target audience really going forward. Yeah, and the answer's bound to be digital in some way. I think we can just take one more question on this, and then so Tina, and then we'll need to move on. Oh, sorry, Andrew.
Tina Steckman, Scottish Association. What you're describing there sounds like a Young Ringers hub. I think maybe we could work together on that.
Thank you. That was the plan.
Hi, Andrea Haynes. I'm the work group lead for Young Ringing, and yes, this is part of one of the work streams that we're looking at. I've already started conversations with Joe Creshill about how we leverage the Ringing World website to develop that, and also to make sure that we have a network of young ringing leaders and train future leaders as well. So yeah, it's very much in the pipeline. I do have another question as well, which is, are you still going to stick with 6 and 8 bell competitions? We're not going to merge them? Okay. Okay. And I think so feedback from, as part of the work Joe and I are doing, some feedback from leaders is that because we're talking about potentially having regional groups to work with the YCRA to help with graduation from youth ringing, rather than just dropping off the edge of a cliff, having somewhere to go on a regional basis. But the feedback from the leaders that I've spoken to are very anti-regional competitions. I just thought I'd drop that one in. That's about 15 of the leaders have come back. Yes. 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 We have regional competition in the Midlands and the South East one, which is great. It's like a much smaller version, but yeah, having eliminators is not popular. Sorry, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay. I think can we move on, please? Right. So I know there were lots of questions about this previously, so that's why I wanted to bring this slide out, which is so this year and into next year, we want to continue work on this monthly publication, and also looking very actively at digital publication as well. We've already started looking at how we can redevelop the ringingworld.co.uk website. As I mentioned earlier, this very kind donation from Alan Ainsworth is helping us to do that as well. And we're not short on reserves as well, so we'll use that money as well. We've got to do work on identifying additional revenue streams, and I know this was talked about earlier, whether this is something through Bellboard or maybe other products or something like that, but we've got to look at this, because the way we're going at the moment, we are going to run out of money. There's no doubt about that. So we've got to look at that. And, it's been mentioned, over the last few minutes about building on the success of the Young Ringers competition. Like we've all said, it's a fantastic thing. It's growing, which is a great problem to have. So we want to build on that. So those are the things that the board will be looking at over the next 6 months and into 2025. Are there any more comments on that or suggestions? Probably had them all, so thank you very much on that. Right, so any other business then? So is there anything else that people want to raise and get discussed today about the ringing world? They can. Is that right, Mary? No. Yes, they will be, yeah. Linda.
really just to thank everybody, the board and all the volunteers who work on the Ringing World every week. It is an amazing publication. We were showing some copies round to somebody, can't remember where it was, in Campton the other week, non-ringer, and they couldn't believe that this was a weekly publication about bell ringing of such quality. And that takes an awful lot of work from Will, his team, but everybody behind the scenes. So I think on behalf of everybody, thank you very much for all that you do.
Fred.
Thank you, Fred Byrne, Essex Association. I wonder if you've given any thought to reviving something that we did in my day as a director, which was to try and promote more tower copies, to make a serious effort to persuade towers that they need copies of the Ringing World. If half the towers in the country took a copy of the Ringing World, I mean, I don't know how many do at the moment, we do, but I don't know how many others do, but if you could persuade half the towers in the country to take a copy of the Ringing World, it would boost your circulation by quite a lot.
Thank you, yeah. I mean, I think we do have, I can't remember what it's called, what is it, the tower subscription or something? I don't know whether we promote it or not, but it's certainly there. We have the capability to do it, so yeah, thank you. We should promote it, yeah. That's your fault.
Bad business.
Right, if that's everything, so thank you very much. I think we can close the meeting. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
That was painless.